Russia, if you're listening, we offer very reasonable sponsorship rates. I'm Harriet Langley-Swindon, and this is NonCensored. Welcome back to NonCensored. After a well-deserved summer break, we are back on your podcast apps with the very best bits from my very real daily radio show, which does exist in one easy-to-digest highlights package. And I'm joined, as ever, by my producer, Martin. And what a show we have for the listeners this week, eh, Martin?
Oh, yes, indeed. We have new Chancellor Rachel Reeves on to discuss the cuts to the winter fuel allowance and arms sales to Israel. Eshaan Akbar talks to us about fat teenagers. And we have a hereditary peer on to explain why he's so essential to British democracy.
But before we move on, perhaps we should reintroduce ourselves? I'm Harriet Langley-Swindon, broadcaster, commentator, opinionist, provocateur, 3 times Rear of the Year quarter-finalist, and, most importantly, podcaster. I am part of the rebel media, an outsider that will not toe the party line that our Labour overlords would like us to. Alongside other anti-establishment media outlets like The Telegraph, GB News, The Spectator, Spiked, everything Rupert Murdoch owns and everything the Russian government funds, totally committed to freedom of speech, no matter how uncomfortable that might make people.
And I'm producer Martin, and I'm a dad, a husband, a man who...
Shut up, Martin. I hate it when you do mushy stuff.
Right, yes, sorry. We should say, though, that this podcast has a Patreon which supports our work. So please go to patreon.com/noncensored if you want to watch all the interviews in video and get some bonus content on a monthly or even a weekly basis.
I still don't understand why we aren't getting those big sponsorship deals that other common sense podcasters are getting, Martin.
The thing is, since an incident with some non-censored funds being used in, well, let's call it an overseas scheme, a lot of sponsorship offer emails go automatically to the spam folder.
That investment will come good, Martin. Crypto's the future, apparently.
We should also mention that we have a live show coming up at the Bedford Pub in Balham, South London, on Wednesday the 16th of October as part of the Cheerful Earful Comedy Podcast Festival.
Why are we on at a comedy festival, Martin? We're a serious news programme.
There was an honest mix-up, meaning that we're on at the Cheerful Earful Festival and Have a Word on at the International Journalism Festival in Sheffield. We'll get that fixed next year. Anyway, tickets are available from cheerfulearful.co.uk.
Let's move on to this week's show, and we'll start with new Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who stopped by the studio to explain why she is persecuting pensioners who, through absolutely no fault of their own, have lots of money. Let's take a listen. Rachel Reeves, it's your first time on the show. What a treat for our listeners and for you. Hello.
If I'm honest, Harriet, I don't actually want to be here, but I have to be here because of what Jeremy Hunt has left after 14 years of austerity. So I actually have to be here, not of my own choice, but because of where we've been left, because of the Tory party.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to start. We appreciate you coming on all the same. But you have come under a little criticism this week, and we really wanted to talk to you about the winter fuel payments.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose in many ways the person you should actually be talking to is Jeremy Hunt, because Jeremy Hunt made me do it.
Okay, but he didn't make you cut winter fuel allowance for all the old people, did he?
No, he actually did, because I don't, we've got to deal, Harriet, with the situation that we're in. Mm-hmm. And the situation that we're in is the one that Jeremy Hunt left us with. And if I'm honest, I wouldn't change anything. But we are where we are.
Right.
So I've had to cut it. And also, very old rich people, they'll be fine because I've made changes to the pension. So actually, it's not actually a massive impact for individuals, but I've got to fill this big black hole. Do you know who left the big black hole, Harriet?
Is it Jeremy Hunt?
That's exactly right. It's Jeremy Hunt.
Okay, but
I mean, I think, Rachel, you do make a good point there. Old rich people probably do have more jumpers, sweaters, probably some shawls to hand, probably a nice chunky knit throw that just lying around, some soft cushions that would make it easier to get through winter without the fuel payments.
That's exactly right. That's generational wealth.
And could you, if you were to estimate how much these chilly OAPs will help fix the foundations? Because I know you're all about fixing the foundations. Do you think a cold grandpa maybe helps 1%? Are we a little closer to that, to getting the foundations fixed?
It's a good question, because you know that I don't deal in ifs and buts, and what I deal with the things that have to be dealt with. And I'm going to be honest, it's not going to make much of a difference. Because when you've got a £22 billion black hole that you haven't been told about, imagine if you've come home and you looked under the carpet.
Yeah.
You think, oh, everything's fine. And then you look under your carpet and there's all this rubbish under the carpet.
Yeah.
I'd fire my husband.
And do you know who I would fire?
Jeremy Hunt.
That's right.
But the thing is, Rachel, Jeremy Hunt is no longer in charge, is he? It's you. You're the one doing this to the old people, and not just the rich OAPs, which I would argue also deserve winter fuel payments, but also the poor ones as well. I mean, look, Rachel, we're all a fan of austerity, but does that really mean cutting funding for old people?
I cannot explain to you how big this hole is. It's a very big, swirly black hole, and I don't actually have a choice. And even though, yes, this policy may make a very small amount of difference, if any, it's got to be done. And again, it's not actually my fault. In many ways, I've got a gun to my head.
How have you got a gun to your head?
Because I don't have any choice other than to enforce this policy because of the mess that I've been left in.
Right. Rachel, what would you say to the people that say that you're actually kind of scaremongering by saying that this black hole exists? Because as we know, a black hole has a gravitational field so intense that no matter or radiation can escape. So, I mean, there are people probably at home thinking, good Lord, this could be the end for us. Will 22 billion close it?
No, it's a scary image because it's I was going to call it something else, like a sort of white dwarf or well, I didn't study kind of physics or sort of universe stuff, but space. I think black hole, space. I didn't study space. I studied economics, as you know, but I feel like it's the right imagery because it's very scary, it's unknown, and it sucks everyone into it. And when you hear about a £22 billion black hole, you might think, oh, it sounds like a band, but it's not. It's something much scarier. It's a hole in the economy. So I think it's not scaremongering, it's correct. It's scary.
Yes.
Martin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what I think's scary, punishing all these old people. And what I want to know is, are you punishing the old people because they're Tory voters?
No, that's absolutely not the case. It's not the case. I'm punishing old people because Jeremy Hunt said I had to punish old people.
Right.
I'd also like to do, Rachel, I mean, leaving the plight of the old people aside, you've also been attacking landlords. Can I just say? Saying that to get rid of no-fault evictions?
I mean, I do think that's not unreasonable. If you look at the 14 years of austerity that we've come out of, if you see the number of people that are in poverty and the number of landlords, and it's a no-brainer, Harriet.
But what if you don't want them in your flat anymore? Because they always speak to you with a slightly insolent manner, and also you could put the rent up more, and they won't accept that.
No, I think it's important. No-fault evictions will stop people being made homeless.
But what if they deserve to be made homeless?
Oh, dear.
Okay, I don't really think anyone can deserve to be made homeless, Harriet. But I would say that, again, when it came to this policy, I didn't actually have a huge amount of choice.
Why is that?
Because... Come on.
Because I had to do it. It was Jeremy Hunt. Jeremy Hunt made me do it.
Well,
it was Jeremy
Rachel,
Hunt made me do it.
Reeves, Miss Reeves, if it's all right, I think everyone would benefit from you just maybe coming out and telling us all of the things that
Jeremy Hunt has
done.
Has made you do.
I mean,
yeah, we'd like.
What else?
I mean, it's lots of things. It's not just the economy that Jeremy Hunt has messed with. Have you seen about the Oasis tickets being incredibly expensive?
Oh, it's madness. Couldn't get them.
It's actually Ticketmaster and Exit, all of that. You know why it was?
What? Why?
Jeremy Hunt.
Jeremy Hunt did
he did the ticket price. Also, I don't know if it's not just Oasis tickets, but also with Taylor Swift tickets. It was the same issue with Ticketmaster. Jeremy Hunt made that. But also, it was other England using the Euros.
That was him?
Yeah. The general smugness of Gary Lineker.
Oh,
Jeremy Hunt.
Lord.
And we were so close.
Have you ever come back to your house and sort of think, I thought I put my coffee mug there, but then your coffee mug is somewhere different.
Yes.
And you're like, I don't remember leaving the house and it being that messy. And then you come back and your house is messier.
Oh.
I'm not saying that's Jeremy Hunt, but I'm not saying it's not Jeremy Hunt.
Okay.
Rachel, during this interview, I've got a text from Jeremy Hunt, who I am friends with. And he says, you are a liar and a loser, and it's not true, and you should be disgusted. And then he's put an upside down head emoji and a little emoji where it's sort of a leaking head.
It's sweaty.
I'm not sure what that means.
Sweaty or crying with laughter.
Something like that, yeah.
Right.
It's a sinking face. It's a sinking face.
Stinking face one, yeah.
Well, firstly, I think that's absolutely shocking. And it's shocking and it's disgusting what he has said to you there. However, that is exactly the kind of communication I would expect from somebody who's left this country with a £22 billion swirly, black, sucking, dangerous, swirly, scary black hole in the middle.
Yeah. You said swirly twice, which I don't think is the scariest word, but it's worth, reinforcing the swirly nature of it.
Well, I guess it mixes everything up, doesn't it? Swirls.
Well, sorry, it swirls and it sucks. So it's a sucky, swirly,
like a Hoover, like a
Hoover,
a shark Hoover, a brand new, or maybe other brands do exist. That's just a very good one.
That's a very. I was going to say Dyson, but I don't really want to get into the sort of whole thing. But a very strong Hoover that could suck up £22 billion of the economy.
Rachel, you, of course, have only been in the role for a very short amount of time. It's natural there will be a lot of house cleaning yet to do. Is there going to come a point when Jeremy Hunt's influence will no longer impact this country, and perhaps you'll be taking responsibility for any of the new things that you need to implement?
Well, I somewhat resent that, Martin, but I would say 10% cut of export licenses to Israel. That wasn't Jeremy Hunt. That was our way of saying we 90% support America supporting Israel. And that 10% is us saying no.
Right, because there has been a bit of criticism about this. Alison Pearson, a person we all respect, has said that it's shameful.
Well, you have to remember it's a 10% withdrawal of export licenses, and you've got to really think about the impact that will have. She could say it's 10% shameful because it's not a full withdrawal of export licenses, is it?
I suppose that would make it 90% not shameful.
That's exactly right. And that 90% not shameful is maybe something that she should think about. But I'm not in the business of appeasing commentators or blaming other people, because, you've got to take responsibility for your own actions and say, this is what I chose to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing. 10%.
Well, Rachel, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
I've got to go. Sorry, I've got such a packed day. Somebody overbooked my diary. I won't say who made me do it.
Right.
Was it Jeremy Hunt?
For our audio listeners there, that was a nod and a widening of the eyes. And maybe the sort of physical manifestation of the sweaty man face.
Well, thank you, Rachel. This has been, I'd say, the worst interview we've ever had.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Harriet, but I have to say, if you're looking at whose responsibility that is, there's only one person you can look at, and that would be Jeremy Hunt.
Okay.
Now, it wouldn't be Non-Censored without our diversity correspondent and occasional comedian, Eshaan Akbar. We all know that debate is the best way to find out what's true and what's not. So every week, Eshaan joins us to deliver a hot and spicy takeaway of the week, which he sort of throws an opinion into the air for us to debate, and whoever wins the debate must have the best opinions.
Yes, I suppose you could say he throws up an idea, on our show every week.
Thank you. I am known for my way with words. Anyway, this week he's talking about YouTube restricting fitness videos to teenagers. Let's take a listen. Eshaan Akbar, how has been your summer holidays?
Oh, I've had a wonderful summer, thank you. It's been busy, spending time with friends, family, and old flames.
Oh, old flames. That sounds rather saucy and exciting.
It was both those things, saucy and exciting, like sriracha sauce.
Ooh, I do like sriracha sauce. It's one of my favourites, always in the fridge, along with a Tabasco. One for each. Different sauces for different needs.
Yes.
Eshaan, are you one of these men who say things like, I like my woman like I like my sriracha sauce?
Yes, hot and foreign.
Oh, I don't think you can say that anymore.
Okay.
I'm just saying they'll get you.
Yeah, okay.
They'll get you.
It's hot. And
But we don't want to be...
They will get you,
foreign
Eshaan.
sauce.
Now we've got a Labour government. It's only a matter of time.
Oh, really? Do you think Labour is after big sauce?
That's very silly. No, I think the oppression on free thinkers like ourselves is going to increase, and we have to be careful.
Yes, we do have to be careful.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
But I commend you with your humorous line of thought.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It was quite saucy and spicy, wasn't it?
Usually I'd laugh, but I don't want to be complicit under this new regime.
I understand.
That's actually a very good move there, Harriet. Very good. You've been listening to the suggestions that I've been making, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. So, Eshaan, please tell us, what is your hot and spicy takeaway of the week?
Well, it's very interesting, Harriet, that you raised a sentiment that you're worried that Labour will suppress free thinkers like you, because YouTube, the world-renowned internet platform, has says that it is going to limit recommendations of certain health and fitness videos to teenagers, including those which idealise certain body types. So it's saying that 13 to 17-year-old users, they'll still be able to view and search for fitness-related content, but will not be encouraged into repeated viewing of similar videos because of concerns around developing negative beliefs around body types and leading to body dysmorphia and things like that. Now, I guess my hot and spicy take is this. I quite like the fact that YouTube are doing this, because I think it's important to keep fat teenagers fat, to give the rest of us something to do to be able to bully these young 13 to 17-year-olds, so that eventually they grow strength and resilience as adults.
Right, so you're not saying that these little fatties should stay fatty. You're saying that for now they're given an incentive to lose weight.
Absolutely. So these little fatties, these little roly-polies walking around, well, I say walking, wobbling around our streets, actually, we should be able to say to them, roly-poly.
Now,
Fat and frank.
I don't
because
think...
if they're watching YouTube videos, they're going to get fit. Now's not the time.
Eshaan, this is a very spicy take. I effectively encouraging the fat shaming of children. I feel like if you're going to get cancelled for anything, this might be the one. Having podging a finger at a podgy child, that's not okay.
Producer Martin, do you think you're saying this because we're now under a Labour government?
No, I'm not saying it. I would have said it anyway. I just don't think that you should be, making fun of poor children. However, I do actually, I do have a further development on this. I mean, if they're able to do this, not necessarily a bad thing, to stop hitting people with the same algorithm, the same information time and time again, taking them further down the rabbit hole. Why don't they do it with far-right content? I mean, there's so many children getting indoctrinated into this sort of misogynist sort of
thing is,
self-hate.
What constitutes being far right is subjective, isn't it? You being fat is objective. You're obviously a fat person. What people consider far right
Not a
content
fat person.
is subjective. I mean, Martin, it worked for you.
Yes.
You were a fat, podgy teenager. Everyone kept plodding you.
I carried a little extra weight when I was younger.
A bit of
Yes.
extra weight. I've seen some pictures in your family home. Lots and lots of extra weight. And look at you now. You're in a much better place, I'd say.
Well, thank you. Yes, no, that is true. That is true. I have. But that was, you blossom. You need to have that space as a child to be an ugly little
And you were taking up a lot of space.
pod. You want to be a fat little cocoon. And then out comes the butterfly, the sexy butterfly of adolescence and young
You a butterfly
manhood.
now, Martin?
Are you calling teenagers, adolescents sexy?
No, I'm saying that I became a sexy,
A butterfly.
sexy butterfly.
Well,
Okay, but this is what I want to know, though, is producer Martin talks about far-right content and how the algorithm keeps showing far-right. But as Eshaan points out, where do you draw the line? And I just worry that all of this is a slippery slope.
yes.
So many people, so many of our listeners, would they have found us if they hadn't listened to people like Jordan Peterson first?
Right.
It's just, you've got to think about what the line is. And if we start cancelling things that are going to bring more things to people, what about little shows like ours? What about the free thinkers? What about the free spiriters? What about, to put it in your language, producer Martin, the butterflies of the free speech world, who rely on the algorithm to fly from one child to another?
No, I think you've ruined my metaphor a little there, Harriet. But
I don't think I have.
I do have to say the data does back it up. We do largely get a quite a large spill over from people that have been interested in insane conspiracy sites.
There you go. Well, insane. I mean, that's more sort of fun, isn't it? Insane. I think that's what the kids say. Insane.
Yeah, because I heard somewhere that someone once told me they found our podcast on a Reddit subforum.
Oh, well.
That's good.
Oh, goodness,
I think
we're
that's
famous.
a good sign.
Oh, right. I think that speaks to your wonderful marketing, to be honest with you, Martin. It's
Thank
pretty
you.
impressive that we made it onto a
Well,
Reddit subforum. What was it, incels or something?
The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
Precisely.
I'll take the numbers. I'll take the views.
Exactly. So that goes back to my point. When you see a fat teenager, that is all anybody can talk about, really. And actually, us being able to talk to them and talk at them and be able to laugh at them when they don't fit in their...
It's not about laughing at them, though, is it, Eshaan? It's just sort of videos to consistently make them feel bad about themselves. And that's very different.
I think there's
That is
enough in
different.
life to do that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Surely you can get your shame the old-fashioned way. Just go to school, go to the church, talk to your parents. There's so many different ways you can get your shame. You don't need it from YouTube. YouTube should be for skateboarding videos, cats doing funny things, and the occasional informative, I don't know, chat about, how sex works.
Oh, producer Martin, I was very moved by that.
That was quite impassioned.
I think you're right. I think we've got to think about, we can get our shame from home. We don't need to outsource it on the internet. And maybe that's what's happening now.
This is Britain. This is what we do.
Yes, we do. Being shamed and feeling shame is an important part of being British. But maybe putting it on YouTube is the wrong way.
I know I feel ashamed.
I don't, but I like to give out shame.
In the words of Justin Timberlake, we're bringing shame back.
Eshaan, that's very funny. That's very funny because that's a play.
Such an old
Did you
reference.
get it,
and it's
producer
not.
Martin? Because it was
It's
a play
not
on a
even, it doesn't
lyric.
even sound like...
But
Lie of Justin Timberlake.
Was that from
Is it
2006?
Yeah.
Yes, the year we all remember, the year of the music. Oh, so wonderful.
We're bringing shame back.
Just repeating it doesn't make it better.
It's so funny. I've
It's
missed
a
you, Eshaan.
professional comedian
it's
that
very
we employ to be on the
for
show.
good reason, for little snippets like that. That's what we pay for. That's what we pay for. Well, I think we leave it there. I mean, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to be laughing now for the rest of the day.
Well, look, I might as well just say bye, bye, bye.
Oh, that's from NSYNC, producer Martin. That's NSYNC. It's so funny. Oh, Eshaan, very good. Finally, if you needed any more proof that Labour want to destroy democracy, look no further than their plans to kick hereditary peers out of the House of Lords. Luckily, a noble band of nobles are standing up and fighting for their right to be absolutely unremovable from the British legislature. And earlier this week, I was joined by one of them, the Honourable Sir Lord Hughdith Anglesey, Jones Vaguely-Blythe the 4th, 132nd Baronet of Little Lower Upminster-on-Wye, or Hughie to his friends. Let's take a listen. Hughie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, no. I mean, I'm delighted to have some sort of audience. To be perfectly honest, as someone who's willing to listen.
Well, that is what we want to do. We want, at NonCensored, we want people to hear what you have to say, because it's absolutely shocking what you're going through at the moment. I mean, you're facing eradication.
Yes, there hasn't been as serious an attempt to wipe out the Vaguely-Blythes as this, since my father and mother both caught, we're not entirely sure what they caught, but something absolutely abominable in India. That was the last assault.
Wow.
Similar to this one.
Yes.
And Lord Vaguely-Blythe, I would like to point out, put in years of solid service of what it is, Harriet, is it's showing up.
Yes.
It's showing up, And
Which is a really important part of democracy, an important part of our country. And that is what you do.
It's an enormously important part of our country, as you rightly say. And the hereditary peers have played an integral part in this country for a great many years. I mean, it's upon the backs, the bent backs of the hereditary peers that the rest of the system has been able to thrive. And there are a great many of my I'd love to call them friends, but we can't. I'd love to call them colleagues, but they won't. But there are a great many others like myself, including, and you may know him, Lord Piers Hereditary. Do you know him, Piers?
Oh, wow, yes.
Of course, Piers Hereditary has had, and he comes from a long line of hereditaries, and of course is a hereditary peer himself. I mean, he's had it from both ends.
Both ends.
Both ends. He's had a sort of double assault because of his name.
Right.
Enormously difficult for him. And he was, Piers was pretty badly bullied at school, but I don't regret it.
Well, Hughie, it's the circle of life. Hughie, I don't
Man
want
of the Lion King.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yes, the circle of life. Yes. Young Simba held up before all
those
the
animals.
other creatures. Now,
yes.
You'll enjoy this, Harriet. When I was born, my father, Lord Vaguely-Blythe, had me held up by a baboon on the upper promontory of the front of our little pile in Hertfordshire for all of the local villagers to see. And it was a wonderful, wonderful scene.
How gorgeous.
I was a tiny lad, just 14 years old, held aloft, naked, in front of the villagers.
And I bet they all remembered that, Hughie. I bet all of them remembered that day.
I know they did, because they've mentioned it a great many times.
Did they, you know how in The Lion King, the animals, they all make a noise, they make animal noises.
Yes, and they sort of bowed down, and there
Yes.
was the same. You could hear, rather like wildebeest, you could hear people sort of sounded like cheering, sort of going, boo, like this.
Oh, wow.
A sort of wonderful, heartening cheer. I was, funny enough, I was at school with Giles' heartening cheer, who's another hereditary peer. But you see, Harry, the thing with this is, with Labour, this Labour government, and we'll see if that lasts. I don't think it will, but it's an assault, it's an attack. And my question to them would, in terms of democracy, would be: did you see the footage of Angela Rayner in Ibiza?
They're keeping rather quiet about that, Hughie. I think that's rather interesting.
It has barely been mentioned. The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, at a rave in Ibiza. And I would ask you if is it the hereditary peers? Is it us, the hereditary peers, that are a threat to democracy, or is it Angela Rayner?
Wow.
I don't know.
Hughie, I think that's a very powerful question. I do want to ask you, and I hope you don't mind me asking this because I know the answer. But what would you say to the people who are rather sceptical of hereditary peers? What would you say that you as a hereditary peer offer to the House of Lords?
About £40.
Right. Well, there we go. That's pretty good, isn't it?
£40 opening bid.
That's
offer to them to change their minds.
Well, I think more. Why do you think you should be there?
Oh, I see. Oh, well, now that's a far more important question, and actually I don't mind a tough question. I haven't met Emily Martlis, but I want it known that I'm not afraid of her. What do hereditary peers have to offer to the democratic process, to the second chamber? And the answer is as crystal clear today as it was when I first became Lord Vaguely-Blythe, and that is, we are hereditary. It's hereditary.
Wow.
It's hereditary. This is my position in the House of Lords was given to me by my father, Harriet. Does that make sense? Have you ever been given anything by your father?
Oh, yes, lots of things.
Can you think of what did your father give you last Christmas, Harriet?
Well, last Christmas, he gave me a conservatory.
Wonderful. So, Harriet, here I come. I'm Sir Keir Starmer. Oh, sorry, Harriet. We're going to take your conservatory away now. Well, was it a Christmas gift, was it?
Yes, it was.
Christmas gift?
From my dear father.
From your father? Oh, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm afraid we're going to take your conservatory away. But why? Because I'm Angela Rayner. I'm Sir Keir Starmer. I'm going to take away your conservatory, which was a gift to you from your father. Now, we don't do that, actually, in this country. We don't go about taking things that have been given to other people by family members. And I was given a hereditary peerage by my father, and his father gave one to him, and I'm damned if I will go back through all of the things I've been given through my life and have them taken off me.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. And it doesn't matter. It needn't be. People say this is a class thing. You try it with something smaller. A child who's just recently been given a Kinder Egg.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. First day of school. Here's a Kinder Egg.
Wow.
Be careful, it's got a little thing inside. No, I'm taking it back away. It's the same as that. It's the same.
Yeah. And I suppose if, to our northern listeners, you'd say it would be sort of taking away from a child a pot noodle.
Yes. Yes. And, pot
noodle.
Who are they?
No, it's a sort
Are
of...
they something to do with Thangham Debonair?
No,
different
Hughie.
thing.
No,
But
it's
one
a
of the
sort
new-
of working class dish.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely lovely.
Hughie, we're running out of time, and I did want to ask you as well what you felt about them putting in a retirement age of the age of 80 for the peers
Well,
in the House of Lords.
well, now you see, my father, who stayed alive, he died last year, aged 111 years old. He
Yeah.
was able to stay alive, remarkably fit and healthy, on a mixture of pate and spite.
Wow.
And he really, to be honest, in the view of both myself and my younger brother, less so my younger sister, but she's a queer sort. She is a, she's a very, very
Every
queer,
family has one.
queer sort, has a bicycle.
Yeah.
Anyway, never mind. But he really hit his prime at the age of 78. My father, he hit his prime at the age of 78. And I would say, if you decide to sort of suddenly eject these members of the House of Lords when they're just sort of hitting their peak, I think you lose something wonderful. I mean, my father, up until his late 70s, was able to have lengthy conversations on one or two topics. But then at 78, those broadened out into an extraordinary range of ideas that he would sort of clutch at. He was diagnosed as suffering with PTSD, which I think is to his credit.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, we used to respect the old, didn't we? We used to see them as wisdom, with something
Well,
to
you
teach
see,
us.
This is absolutely it, isn't it? You see, I mean, as we age, we gain experience, we gain knowledge, we gain land, and so you can't suddenly start questioning that. I know as I've got older myself, I mean, you know, I've definitely done better than I did, for example, when I was at school.
Hughie, I mean, I could talk to you all day. You're the most fascinating guest, and
You're very kind. I mean, I would, if it's all the same, I would love to talk to you all day. I really do have surprisingly little to fill my time, and I haven't mentioned it, but I do think that if my seat in the Lords is taken away from me, I can see myself sort of coming undone, actually.
Right, well, Hughie, I think that's a very poignant note to end our interview on. And I hope personally you don't come undone, that you stay done up and ready to go.
There's plenty more to offer. That's the point. There's plenty more to offer. £40 was just the opening bid.
Well, that's it for now. We'll be back next week. So in the meantime, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies, follow the Out of Context Non-Censored Blue Sky account, and keep those questions coming to noncensoredpodcast@gmail.com. And remember that there's loads of stuff on our Patreon. It's absolutely wonderful. Go to patreon.com/noncensored. So if you enjoy the show, please do support us if you can. With thanks to Rosie Holt, Brendan Murphy, Eshaan Akbar, Davina Bentley, Marcus Brigstock and Ed Morrish. I'm Harriet Langley-Swindon and we'll be back next week with more Non-Censored.
Bye, bye, bye.